Everything changed when they then stormed onto the street and blocked off traffic. Chaos ensued when police responded by firing tear gas into the crowd. Going inside the old city, there are many locals who say that with the increased security forces, the tensions in Israel, in the West Bank, that they can feel the tension in the air despite how joyous of a time it's supposed to be. Since the coronavirus pandemic, Wolt has become a major player in Israeli food delivery, with 3,000 restaurant partnerships across the country. That does not mean that shoppers are not feeling the sting of rising global prices. I've spoken to many shoppers here today who are saying that they are being forced to shop differently. 84% of the community says that they're happy with their lives here in Israel. But church leaders here in Jerusalem are saying that the report isn't the full story. Spirits are still high with runners trickling in from the original 26.2-mile marathon that began at around 6:30 in the morning. From there, you also have the much lighter half marathon of a small 13 miles. Just over 1,300 cases from yesterday, which is a record low compared to the over 10,000 cases a day we were seeing throughout August and September. 40% of the food that we eat is thanks to these guys. But because of humans, bees around the world are in trouble. Dual stories of the Promised Land. This northern Israel school is having a ceremonial Passover meal before leaving for holiday break, as students commemorate the freedom of the Israelites from slavery in Egypt and journey to what would become the land of Israel. 9-year-old Kira Garanina and her family are marking their own exodus. It was only weeks ago that the Garanina family made the decision to pick up their lives in Kiev and flee to Israel, following Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
We were hiding for 6 days in a basement in Bucha, and children saw all of that. How can we explain to them why they have to leave their warm bed and beautiful apartment to hide in a damp basement from rockets? On the very first day at 5:30 in the morning, on the 24th of February, we left from Kiev to a nearby village, Bucha. We left Ukraine and went to Poland. We were in Poland for 2 weeks.
The United Nations reports that over 4 million Ukrainians have fled their country since the beginning of Russia's wide-scale invasion on February 24th. Thousands have found refuge in Israel, and those eligible for citizenship are now putting down roots. Nof HaGalil in northern Israel, a town already boasting a strong Russian-speaking community, has welcomed Ukrainian families with open arms. The influx of families to the town who don't know Hebrew have made Russian-speaking teachers like Marina, who herself was born in Ukraine, critical in incorporating their kids into school.
The children were put in classes according to their age, and a mentor, a Russian-speaking educator, accompanied each child in their class. We have Russian speakers in each class, children and teachers, and they accompany them during breaks, translate for them, help them with their studies, so they'll feel as secure as possible and at home.
A total of 5 Ukrainian children have joined the Carmel school so far, which is focusing first on making sure that all new students get acclimated in the environment, then when the time is right, catching them up academically.
We know that children who leave everything behind and come to a new place need much more than just to study at school. They need a group. It's very important to them, a clique, to make friends, play with them, to be with them after school, and of course, to feel as good as they can.
Kira is already making friends days into starting at the Carmel school, and the Garaninas look ready for a new chapter as a family. But they say that Ukraine will always be their home.
Since I was not blind from birth, I can visualize and remember how these tools look like, the drill, the hammer and nails, which makes the learning process faster.
Taher has been making brooms in the heart of Jerusalem's old city for years, where through the sounds of saws and murmur of heavy machinery, he has been able to visualize a new path for himself, despite losing his vision decades ago.
I became a member of this association when I became blind. It taught me and helped me to excel at this job, and thankfully, I started my work here in this field.
The first collective of its kind in the Middle East, the Arab Blind Association was formed in 1932 under the British mandate as a school, before finding its home on the historic Via Dolorosa in 1954. Here, blind workers have been able to find new purpose working with their hands, making high-quality brooms from scratch to be used in cities and towns across Israel.
We noticed that they work with brushes and brooms of various kinds, and the materials that the blind people use at work are 100% natural materials. For example, coconut straw is used to make brushes, which is a natural material, which is a tree. White loofah and horsehair, you can see that all materials are natural and also environmentally friendly materials.
They are part of this history. We are now in Via Dolorosa, which has witnessed 2,000 years ago a lot of history. And this city keeps, it lives, it survives with history. And our main target is to try to maintain this history, support all the associations that can support the city and support the vulnerable part of the society inside the city.
At peak times, this workshop employs dozens of blind people from around Israel and the West Bank. Since the coronavirus pandemic, numbers have shrunk down to 4. The numbers may be dwindling, but the impact of the Arab Blind Association has been unimaginable. UNESCO has even recognized the association's work, tasking them with spreading to countries across the Arab world, where they have set up shop in Iraq, the Emirates, and Egypt.
The idea behind establishing this association was to bring the blind people and give them an honorable profession, so that they can live and prove to society that they are people who are capable of production, work, and creativity.
And Amalia, what is the scene there?
Yes, Caleb, we're here at the testing center today. Throughout the day, it actually has ebbed and flowed with how many people we're seeing. At certain points when we first got here, there were barely any people here and they were moving through fairly quickly. But then once the after work crowd came, we started seeing things pick up again. It died. And now, right now, as we speak, the line is starting to pick up again. Now, the people here are ranging from some who have to get tests for work on a weekly basis, others who have kids who are exposed to others in their classrooms, and some who really just want to see their elderly family, and so they want to make sure that they're being safe before they go there, especially if they come in contact with someone. But as you said, there is this big problem we're seeing of running out of tests and the government scrambling to find where they can get more.
And of course, there's been talk that the government has to revise testing requirements so that it doesn't run out of the tests. Let's talk about what may have to be done there.
Yes, Cliff, as of right now, when someone is exposed to someone who tests positive for the coronavirus, someone who is vaccinated will first go get a rapid antigen test and see first if that comes back positive. And if that comes back positive, they'll get the official PCR test. But now the government is talking about switching it so that even unvaccinated people will also go through that process as well, just because of how many people have been swarming testing centers across the nation.
All right, so keep that in mind. If you're vaccinated and you've been exposed to a COVID patient, don't rush out there to that line. First, do an antigen test to see the result. Amalia Roy, thank you for joining.
I came here for a visit in 1995. I really enjoyed the love, the spirit of oneness that was here in our community in Israel. Coming from America, I just knew that this was the place that I wanted to have children and raise my children.
In 1998, Tovit picked up her entire life in America and moved to Dimona, a small town in southern Israel. Now she's lived here for over 2 decades, has had all of her 8 children here, but soon they may all be forced to leave.
April, I received a letter of deportation with my name on it, as well as all of my children's names. At that time, we were given 60 days, and we were told we would be deported from the land of Israel.
Tovit and her family are some of 51 Black Hebrew Israelites slapped with deportation orders in April. Now, they're fighting to stay in Israel. Black Hebrew Israelites are a community of Black Americans who believe that the West Africans brought over to the Americas during the transatlantic slave trade had belonged to one of the lost tribes of Israel, and that their mission is to one day return to the land they say they were expelled from.
We wanted to find out where our roots lie, and our roots lie here. And our ancestral homeland we consider to be here, literally here in southern Judea. So that's how we identify as Jewish, because we're Judeans. We live here, and we say that that's our tribal affiliation.
Around the early 1970s, Black Hebrew Israelites began trickling into Israel on tourist visas. where they established an urban kibbutz known as the Village of Peace in Dimona. Neither Israel nor any of the state's religious bodies recognize Black Hebrew Israelites as Jewish, disqualifying them from citizenship under the law of return. Agreements have been reached over time, allowing members of the community to gain long-term resident status in return for children serving in the IDF. Now, the Dimona community is thriving 3,000 members strong, but not everyone is reaping the benefits.
We really had wanted to get some resolution on their cases, but we never were able to get the cooperation because different governments came in and it was such a hot potato, nobody wanted to deal with it, so they kicked it up the road. And so when the Ministry of Interior signed or sent the letters to these individuals, it was like, why are you doing this now?
As families fight their deportation orders, parents say even if they lose, they will not take their children to the United States, where they say racism and violence make it impossible to live freely. Even though their children's movements in Israel remain severely restricted into adulthood. Akimiel was born into Israel without any legal status, working odd jobs to pay the bills, and watching his peers live his dream of joining the IDF.
I had a few lawyers, and we was trying to get me into the Army, into the military. I decided I wanted to be a pilot. The same day my teacher told me, I'm not gonna be what I want, I said, I'm gonna be a pilot, and I walked out the class. I left. On my graduation day, I definitely had to express myself to that teacher, but I'm still on my way.
All 51 cases are set to be tried separately, where each slated deportee will argue for their right to stay in Israel.
Do you know what you're going to do if you lose the court cases?
I'm going to live. I'm going to live. I mean, if that is the next chapter on our journey as a family, we're going to, we'll deal with it.
8th grade, I decided nobody is going to stop me. And this is my home. Like, this is all I know. It's all I know.